Welcome to Cars on Call. I am automotive journalist and gastroenterologist Steve Schutz. I'm here without trauma surgeon Stephan Moran or automotive historian, collector, connoisseur Adams Hudson. They're both away this week, but very excited to have frequent guest, co-host Jeff Bank, my partner. So, Jeff, welcome.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so we got a good slate today. We're going to talk about something first that's kind of up your alley, tech and infotainment. Since you're younger than us, this is really more up your alley. I'm really interested in get your take on this, and then we're going to talk about the Q3 auto sales. We're really going to talk about the first 9 months of the year. There's a lot of surprises, some ups and some downs. They're holding steady, so we'll talk about that. Then we're going to do a status update. And as you know, I bought a new 911 about 2 years ago, and I can talk about that. I've talked about it before on the show, but this gives me a chance to talk about owner update because, Jeff, you bought a brand new Miata how long ago?
10 months, August of 2022. So, 14 months. So done the full calendar year in a convertible. So.
Yeah, it just seemed appropriate, Jeff, just because these are both drivers' cars. And sometimes drivers' cars, hello, Adams S2000, are a little bit of a disappointment and they can let you down. So we will talk about whether or not we are let down by our respective cool drivers' cars. We're going to talk about car spotting. You got an interesting old English car. And at that point, we're going to have a surprise guest, your father.
Yes. Yeah, talk about a car from both your eras. So
yeah. I thought it'd be great for him to talk about the old English car. But Jerry Bank, your father, has been a regular listener, and he's contributed a lot of ideas and a lot of questions that we've talked about. So it'll be fun to have him on. But mostly, he's going to talk Corvettes, and he's had a number of Corvettes over the years. I consider him a Corvette expert, certainly Corvette enthusiast. So we're going to talk Corvettes. So
it'll be fun.
Yeah. So a good lineup. It's going to be fun. And Jeff, why don't you start us off with infotainment? Infotainment is frustrating for a lot of people. By the way, this is not new. It's been frustrating for 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about a recent JD Power car owner survey that was mentioned on a technology website that I follow called The Verge. And so this is the 2023 U.S. Appeal Study. And as with all studies, they come up with a good acronym, and it stands for Automotive Performance Execution and Layout Study. And so for the first time in 28 years that JD Power has been doing this survey, there's a consecutive year-over-year decline in owner satisfaction, really with most of that disappointment directed at car infotainment systems. So what they did was they surveyed 84,000 people, owners of new 2023 model year vehicles after about 90 days of ownership. So really you get past that honeymoon phase of the car, and then you really get into the nitty gritty daily driving of it. And so it was fielded from February through May of 2023, with these vehicles being registered from November of 22 through February of 2023. And so really they found that this overall satisfaction it was 845 points, which is on a 1,000-point scale, which is decreased from 2 points from a year prior. And so they found that really most people are choosing not to use their car's native infotainment controls for frankly obvious reasons to most everyone who drives a modern car. Only 56% of owners prefer to use their vehicle's built-in system to play audio, which is down from about 70% 3 years prior, which I'll be honest, I'm surprised even more than half use their cars. So and so really they're preferring to use the either Google or Android systems of Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which we all know and love. I know, Steve, you're an iPhone user. I'm an Android user, and I love using Android Auto in part because it's consistent across multiple cars. It gets updated frequently, and it's just you know exactly what to expect when you pull it up.
Hey, Jeff,
just
do you
like
get a sense from
yeah.
this study that this study, the JD Power Appeal study, reflects general unhappiness with like the user interface, regardless of whether or not they use CarPlay or Android Auto? Or do you think this is one of those situations where if you, according to JD Power, if you use the native system, you're unhappy. If you use CarPlay, Android Auto, you're happy. Is it which one is it?
Yeah, it's more the latter, that the people are really happy with the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And it talks about, I think as it was mentioned on in the show in the past, that companies like GM are going towards their own proprietary infotainment. And really it's talking about that really Ford, GM, and Volvo have all said that they're going to use something called Google Automotive Services for their current and upcoming vehicles. But actually they found that consumers like the Google Automotive Services, which is really based on Android Auto. I think you're somewhat alienating, more than half of smartphone users who, like yourself, are an Android, or excuse me, an iPhone person. But somebody like me, who's an Android person, I'm sure that's great. But then we also know that all of our data goes to somebody like GM as opposed to Google, and whether how you feel about that is maybe another story. But I just think that this is something that really speaks to, hey, some of these car manufacturers are out of sync, or their market research isn't panning out, showing that, hey, this overall satisfaction is going down year over year. So why would you upgrade? And it also briefly touches on exterior styling, that people are less pleased with that, but the focus of it was really surrounding the infotainment.
Yeah. I've been, as you know, I've driven many cars over the last 30 years since I've been reviewing cars, and it's been interesting to see the evolution of the infotainment world. And of course, initially you had navigation and audio and that kind of thing, satellite radio, and there was no way to connect your phone except maybe to play songs off of iTunes or something like that. But there was no CarPlay. And then CarPlay is relatively recent. I'd say probably 10 years ago when it started. 5 years ago is when it really became a thing. One thing I've talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning. I've had a lot of frustrations over the years with these infotainment centers, which, by the way, they've been around 20, 25 years. They should be better. I mean, they should be a lot better.
Yep.
And whenever I point that out to my middle son, Patrick, who is a Duke computer science major graduate and an active programmer, that's what he does for a living. He has said over the years, even when I think he first said this when he was in junior high, maybe high school, and he said, "Dad, don't complain." He said, "If you're good at tech, you work for a tech company. If you're not good at tech, you work for a car company." And I've quoted that many times, and I think that every time I get into one of these cars. So I think that's one thing, that you're not going to be able to attract the best tech talent if you are in Michigan and you're GM or Ford or Stellantis or something.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just mention this. Maybe this is a glimmer of hope. Tell me what you think, Jeff. At Rennsport, the Porsche reunion event, I went with former Cars on Call guest, retired General Brett Williams, and he's a Porsche guy. And they had a setup there where they had a brand new Cayenne, and they were kind of introducing and allowing people to experience the latest Porsche interface. And interestingly, they are going all in on CarPlay and Android Auto. They are coordinating with the Android Auto and Apple. And what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we are going to go all in. We're going to collaborate with these companies and let them take the lead, because people obviously appreciate and obviously connect with it, and they're happy with it. Other company, don't you think other companies should do that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's somewhat, I think what this is saying, that Ford, GM, and Volvo are collaborating with Google. But I wholeheartedly agree that, going all in with Apple makes a ton of sense. And then that'll only improve Porsche's infotainment system moving forward. And everyone obviously is familiar with it. So
yeah. So what do you think, Jeff? I mean, is it like, is the battle over? Seems to me like it is.
I think so. I think, Apple and Google have won, and that really the that the car companies really just need to, I think, adopt both, because you don't want to alienate half your customers. Oh, I can only have an iPhone if I drive a Porsche, or vice versa. That and so I think, that's where things are going, is that you got to make, just pool in all your resources with these two companies and make things as good as can be. And we all have multiple drivers who drive in cars, and even within the same family, somebody prefers iPhone or somebody prefers Android. That you really got to have both.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. My same son Patrick went to go buy a car, and he actually liked the Lexus. He wanted to get a crossover. He is about to get married, and he's going to have a family, so he wanted to get a crossover. And he looked at Lexus, he looked at the RX, and there was no Apple CarPlay on the year he was looking at, and he just walked away. That was it. It was a deal breaker for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think younger people like yourself, if you don't have that, then people, you're going to lose the sale. And for older people like me, if it's not user friendly, you're going to lose us. And of course, JD Power is saying the same thing. It's not working the way it is. So I think, going with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto is going to be the solution. So anyway,
completely agree. Yeah.
Switching gears. Thank you for that. And we'll see what evolves. But I think the war is over. So, so Q3 auto sales are out. The results have been reported, and it's very interesting. I follow these very closely. My co-hosts don't really love this kind of stuff, but Jeff, you're more of a nerd like me, so maybe we both will enjoy this more than those guys. By the way, Adams and Stephan, we miss you. We wish you were here.
Sincerely, yes.
So I went through the numbers, and it's very interesting to see what kind of shook out. We have 9 months now of much better inventory. Supply chain problems are not gone, but they're much improved. And we're seeing some very interesting trends, and I'll go through some of them. Some of them are just really kind of significant, and I want to talk about that. I will say, to preface this, there is a strike going on. It is affecting GM, Ford, and Stellantis, and outputs will be affected, and sales will be affected. So I expect Q4 to be a little bit different, maybe a lot different, depending on if they can settle this strike soon. The strike's been going on for a little over a week. If it goes on 2, 3, 4 weeks, output will be affected. So keep that in mind. Let me start with the King, Ford F-Series. They sold through the year. That's 9 months, all 3 quarters, 573,000 vehicles. That's up 23%. That's a huge number. Keep in mind, the best year that I can remember of F-Series sales, and again, that's F-150, 250, 350, the heavy duties, all the F-Series. The best year I can remember is about 1 million, I think a little over 1 million. So 573 through Q3 is not great. It's good, but it's not great. Silverado, number 2, they used to kind of battle, and now they're really kind of an also-ran, 411,000. They're up 9%. Again, the F-Series, which is the King, is up 23%. Shockingly outselling the Honda CR-V and almost outselling the Toyota RAV4, which are really the family car kings. I mean, those
just
things,
mainstream. Yeah, that's what, frankly, all of our nurses drive at work. Yeah.
Outselling the CR-V and almost outselling the RAV4 Tesla Model Y. Shocking to me. 284,000. It's up 76%. Obviously, that's due to the price, but the price drops. Jeff, what? Holy crap!
That's I mean, 76%, and because I was going back and I just saw Tesla or Elon Musk just dropping the price, and I thought, how much longer can this go on, and how are they still making money? But then I also read another article that said that Tesla makes as much, if not more money just on their software. So really the quote hardware, the car is just the conduit for their software. And that's frankly amazing. Well,
They went from losing money on every car that they made to now making quite a bit of money on every car they made. And I know, based on all of these deals that they've done, Rivian, Ford, other OEMs are signing up to use the supercharger. They're not
sure.
getting the supercharger for free. So that's going to be another profit center for Tesla, and they'll be able to even go even lower on pricing. I expect the Model Y, which is a very good looking vehicle. I'm not an electric car fan. Everyone knows that, but holy crap. If I were going to get an electric vehicle, I would absolutely get a Tesla because the user experience is good.
It is, and even and going back to the JD Power article, they had said Tesla had a slight actually decline in satisfaction year over year, but they're still, I mean, one of the top performing brands in the industry, and I think you almost have to buy a Tesla if you're going to get an EV. I was thinking EVs when you said the F Series is up 27%. Where is the Lightning? Is that also trending up as well? Because I know they had dropped the price earlier in the year on the Lightning.
Ford does not break out
Oh, they do
sales
not.
according
Okay.
to
All right.
electric, so I do not have that information.
Okay.
My guess is that Ford Lightning sales are up. Probably not hugely, but I think they're up. Hey, Jeff, before we move on from Tesla, you're younger, your friends, other people your age, do you see people say, hey, I want to get a Tesla because of the supercharger thing? Or what's your sense for younger people in Tesla?
I think it's overall very much still positive, and seeing that, hey, all these other manufacturers are going to be using the NACS plug, but I think that if somebody's gonna buy an EV, Tesla has that young or young tech person just wrapped around their finger that is the aspirational vehicle, and that people really aren't considering a whole lot else out there. And I would, thinking, you're talking Model Y versus maybe a Ford Mach-E, and I can't imagine that. I mean, that the Model Y has to probably 10x the Mach-E based on sales. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Next interesting one, Jeff, is the Ford Bronco. And of course, we're all fans of the Bronco. We love the Bronco, blah, blah, blah. Sales were only up 6% compared to
Really?
2022. Yeah, you think more. They were 86,000 to 91,000. The Wrangler took a big hit. All of Jeep took a big hit. I'll talk about that later. The Wrangler was down 14%, but it's 126,000 Wranglers to only 91,000 Broncos. There should be, I mean, what do you think about that, Jeff?
I'm shocked the Bronco isn't up more. It seems like we're seeing more of them on the lots. The people who want to buy them are finally getting their allocations to be able to buy them. That you could get a hard top now, not just only a soft top. And so I'm shocked that there's not more on the road, especially with all these positive reviews. And now they got the Bronco R. And the markups on those are huge. I know my dad has a friend who sold one at, I think, 15,000-20,000 over sticker or what he bought it for. So that doesn't make logical sense to me. I feel like you're seeing them on the road more, but maybe it's just they're kind of gradually accumulating. But I would have thought they would have taken an even bigger jump and an even bigger bite out of Jeep, given the redesigned Wrangler isn't I think isn't out until maybe later this year or early next year.
Yeah, there's got to be demand. I mean, I think people still love it. It's cool. It's still the new kid. It's still the cool new kid. Yeah, that surprised me too. One thing about reading sales numbers, which I've been doing for 30 years, every once in a while there's a surprise, but there's an explanation. So the Chrysler Pacifica, it went from 76,000 to 112,000. It's a 48% rise. Well, you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? People are buying all of a sudden minivans? No, that's fleet. That 100% rental.
Okay.
That's rental cars in Orlando. All of it, 100% fleet. And whenever a lot of times a big number for an ordinary car, it's a fleet. Okay. I used to see this with like Chevy Impalas, and all of a sudden it would go up 52%. It's 100% fleet. People are not buying Chrysler Pacific is at least not regular people.
Yeah, because that's really an also ran minivan. I mean, I wouldn't imagine that people would buy one of those over an Odyssey or Sienna, unless it's solely based on price or a financing deal they were able to get.
Yeah, the Pacific is it's a terrible car to own and a wonderful car to rent.
Sure.
So, another thing to give everyone some perspective, and again, we don't want to span on sales forever, but 573,000 F Series trucks compared with 92,000 Tundras. The Tundra's up 24%. You see Tundras around, you think it's really a legitimate competitor to the F Series and the Silverado and that kind of thing. It's 20% of F Series sales.
Wow. Well, and in really a quarter of what Silverado is. That's I would have thought, especially with Toyota's stellar reputation and how well designed the new Tundra looks like it is, that it would have been easily double. I mean, I'm not expecting it ever to be an F Series competitor, but I mean, I would think it would be able to sell half. So that's that one is surprising to me as well.
Yeah, and to round up what's up, and then we'll get to what's down. Your dad would enjoy this. Corvette sales are flat, but they're 25,000. The Corvette outsells and has been outselling the Camaro, and it sells give me your take on this. They sell about 3 times as many Corvettes as they do 911s.
Wow. I guess really they're about the same price point. The buyers, I mean, I guess they're thinking either, hey, do I prefer American? Do I prefer German? But in really both Corvette and 911 have as many different model ranges as you could imagine. And what Corvette just came out with the E-Ray, the first all-wheel drive and electric assisted, I guess, Corvette that. But I feel like I see Corvettes everywhere, and so I guess I feel like seeing at least 3 Corvettes for every 911 is I feel like I see 5 C8s running around for every 911 that I see.
There's a lot of C8s out there.
Yeah.
We're in Idaho. I guess in California it's maybe not the same, but I don't know. It's a lot more.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to ask your dad about that. Obviously, he's a proud Corvette guy. We'll get to him. All right, what's down? This is very interesting, Jeff. Not a surprise. Alpha year to date, they went from 9,800 in 2022 to 7,500. They're down 23%, and they have a new SUV out, and they're still down 23%.
The toenail, the tonale, yeah,
yeah, the toenail.
I mean there's just more nails being put in Alpha's coffin, unfortunately, at this point. If they can't sell an SUV or can't sell a compact or like the Tonale, it's I mean it's sad.
It is sad. It's a story brand. I've never been an Alpha fan, but it's sad. Could be worse. Could be Fiat. They went from 800 sales last year down to 427. I mean, that's just ridiculous, down 46%. Here's something interesting. I would not have predicted this when this car came out, Jeff. Tell me what you think. Down 31%, 60,000 to 42,000, down 31%. Jeep Gladiator.
Really? I got a good buddy actually who I did medical training with. He is a Gladiator that's all lifted, and you've been to Moab and the whole bit. But I would have thought that the Gladiator would have continued to have strong, steady sales, especially with the Bronco, the 4Runner, all of the big tough off-road image, and that you can kind of marry your Jeep and a truck all in one. I hate the styling, and my wife really hates the styling. but I would have thought that those would have remained strong, especially because they haven't been out for too terribly long.
Yeah. My sense is that the novelty is worn off, and people have started figuring out it's a lousy Jeep and a lousy pickup. And if they want a Wrangler, get a Wrangler. If you want a pickup, get a pickup. I think that's probably it. That's probably it. Also down, BMW X3 down 17%. That's getting old. Do you like
that's due
Jeff?
for a redesign. Yeah.
I mean, are you a fan? What do you think?
X3, I'm kind of meh on. I think there's a lot better luxury SUVs out there, including, I have a Macan GTS that I think is just a better performance. And the styling in the X3 is, it doesn't have the giant kidney grills like the rest of the lineup, but I view it as somewhat of an also ran at this point that is definitely due for a significant refresh.
Yeah, I think it's got to be significant. The Macan
Yeah.
in particular is really good competition, but so is the
Mhm.
Audi Q5. Finally, just to finish with numbers, and I have a point with this last one. 30,000 in 2022 down to 21,000, a 31% drop. That's the Jeep Wagoneer, and the Grand Wagoneer, which is the same platform, the same car, just nicer, had a 21% drop.
Yikes.
Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, they just have not caught on, Jeff.
That's scary for Jeep, especially with how new they are. And you would think that families would be clamoring for, a big 3-row SUV. Obviously, it's a highly competitive segment, and really, looking at the interiors of those, they look like, really Jeep put all their resources into making it as luxurious as it can be. But I wonder if the price point just gets too high, that you don't want to buy a $70,000-$80,000 Jeep when you can get the brand recognition from say a BMW or Mercedes or Audi, that it kind of going, it's a similar kind of to a Volkswagen Phaeton in a sense, or maybe that's what's happening with it. But you
Yeah.
would think, that if Jeep can't sell an SUV, that's scary. So.
In that, I think the same category, the brands that seem to really resonate, and this is mostly young families, maybe prosperous parents with high school or junior high kids, so even not even young families. The brands that really resonate are, in addition to X7, GLS, Cayenne, even more than those would be the GMC Denali and
Sure.
the Denali Yukon, and the Cadillac Escalade, and the Wagoneer seems to have missed that.
I don't know. Just obviously the Escalade, the Denali have been around and out for longer. I look at them as they just have more of a presence on the road. They're more intimidating, and whereas the Wagoneer just seems kind of bulbous and funny looking, and just doesn't have that same intimidating road appeal as when you see an Escalade with a big grill and stacked vertical tail lights and all that coming down the road. I just don't get that from the Wagoneer. So.
Yeah, my sense is that the class of that niche, that segment, is the Yukon Denali. It has the right design. It's got a beautiful interior. It has presence, and it sells very, very well. I just think the Wagoneer doesn't look the part, and it doesn't have any kind of brand recognition. Even though
Right.
the GMC is a GMC, people call it a Denali, and that Denali says luxury, big American, and comfortable, great for road trips. And the
Sure.
Wagoneer,
Sure.
it's the same thing. And Jeff, I made a couple notes here because I want to get your take on this. You cannot be an automotive manufacturer in 2023 without platform sharing, but you can do it right and you can do it wrong. And I'm going to run through some names here and get your reaction, because this, to me, here's how you do it right. Porsche, you take an Audi Q5, you make it into a Macan. It has an Audi engine. It's an Audi platform. But somehow, as you know, they make it drive and feel like a Porsche.
Yeah,
Cayenne, it's an
they
Audi
work their
Q.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah, Q7, it's the same thing. By the way, the Porsche Panamera is a sedan, but it's on the Q7 Audi SUV platform. It's basically an Audi, but people do not perceive it that way. The Taycan, of course, is a bespoke Porsche platform, but it's being shared by Audi. The e-tron GT uses the Taycan platform. So that's platform sharing done right. Let me just read off these Jeeps, and then you can react.
all those that you mentioned are highly profitable vehicles.
Yes.
For them.
Partly because they share the platforms. And
yeah.
so I'm going to go through these Jeeps, And I think once you hear this, you're just going to be sick to your stomach. Wrangler, that's a real Jeep. It's got its own platform. Wagoneer, a Ram truck platform. Renegade, it's a Fiat 500L platform. The Compass is a Dodge Dart platform. How are you going to make platform sharing working like that, Jeff?
Yeah, you gotta style the products better. You got to make them more have more presence on the road. And I think that, I mean, really Jeep hasn't transferred that off-road image to their other vehicles as well as this is just a big Wrangler, or but a Wrangler doesn't carry that same kind of luxury panache, for lack of a better word. And so they're just, it's unfortunate they're struggling so much now.
All of Jeep is down. And
Yeah.
I think somebody needs to pull the fire alarm and start fixing Jeep, because Jeep as a brand used to be so strong, and now it's lost a lot of its luster. And I think it's platform sharing gone wrong that has hurt them. So
yeah, and they knew the Bronco was coming. I mean, there was going to be a 4Runner redesign, and people are catching on to this off-road ruggedness, and that they just were unfortunately complacent. And so, as opposed to, say, being somebody like Apple with their iPhone and always iterating, they just, hey, the Wrangler still continues to sell despite it being unsafe with poor gas mileage and outdated design from 20 years ago. You should have been forward thinking instead. So,
yeah, I like that
yeah.
analogy, that they're not innovating like Apple. I like that. All right, status update. And I'll start with you, Jeff, because you got this. You got your Miata, and everyone says, "Oh, Miata's fantastic. You got to get one." But people say S2000s are great, and Adams got one, and he got tired after 6 months.
Yep.
So, is the Miata still magic, or what do you think?
For me, it's still magic. Yeah. So it's been 14 months, purchased it in August of 2022. And so purchased it really, I mean, at the height of the summer, when it was still 90 plus degrees here in Boise. But to be frank, I mean, it's been an A+ ownership experience, easily the best car that I've owned. I've done, my wife and I did a road trip, weekend trip to Walla Walla and back, and she was comfortable. I confirmed that again with her here today, that hey, she would do it again. And we got everything we needed for a long weekend trip, as well as a dozen bottles of wine, and brought that back from that long trip. Got that all in the Miata, and we were still comfortable and not squeezed up against the steering wheel to come back and put stuff behind the seat for me. But I guess I was thinking about, the Miata compared to the S2000, and really, I mean, I debated the S2000 for a long time, and I think the shifter in the Miata is the best shifter this side of an S2000 out there. But coupled with it's comfortable, it's got modern technology, Android Auto, kind of going back to my topic earlier, and it's got modern safety features. Seats are comfortable. And really, I think it's simple. It still has that analog experience that I think all of us car enthusiasts are after or clamoring for, but coupled with, hey, I can drive this every day, and my wife is fine going on this a long weekend trip. I average 35 miles a gallon despite squealing the tires around multiple corners on my daily commute. and yeah, go ahead.
What's your, thinking back, what's your most favorite thing, and what's your least favorite thing? Any surprises?
I think my most favorite thing is really looking for the apex, no matter where I am, and just pushing.
That's a good surprise.
Yeah, and I think in continuing,
I love that.
to want to do that, and then I think putting the top down and the ease of that. I mean, I'm doing it still when it's in the low 40s on the way into work, despite how crazy I may be. But I think my least favorite thing is, I for lack of better for worse, I'm driving like a motorcycle, meaning that, I don't assume that
That's great.
people that I just don't assume that people see me, and so obviously Stephan and I both have a Miata, and he's the safety guy, but just talking about like mass times velocity squared, and thinking about, hey, gotta make sure I stay extra out of that Rivian's way, so that I don't suffer the consequences of my own mortality because I just happen to drive something that's 2,300 pounds and not 7,000 pounds on the road. I think that it definitely factors into my like how I drive the car. And I've had an expedition try and merge into my lane, and I had to brake
Mm,
quickly. But that's why I got the Brembo brake package.
yeah,
With the Miata, but I would, in a heartbeat, I would buy it again. Maintenance has been very, very low, and I even put winter tires on it last winter, and drove it to work every single day, and I did just fine. So
I guess.
despite the looks the staff gave me when I rolled into work. So
Yeah, I was very impressed with that. I guess the negative I would guess, Jeff, is that it attracts deer.
that this is also true. Yes. I hit a deer in January on my way in, and I think I braked from around 50 down to 20 and hit the right front fender, and the car was still drivable. The deer limped off with 3 legs instead of 4, but then after insurance repaired it, it's back to good as new, and I'd still love it every single day. I will be parking it when there's inclement weather and snow this go around, and taking our Macan instead. But I don't know, in a heartbeat, I would buy it again, and buy. I love the soul red color, the stick shift, the Recaro seats. It's just it's awesome.
Good. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love looking at it. Yeah, that's a great color. It seems like it should be an Audi color. It's really great.
Mhm.
So it always makes me smile when I look at it. My 911 update is I've taken on a lot of road trips. It's 2 years old and I've got almost 20,000 miles. So I've definitely
Wow.
driven.
Wow.
Stefan and I drove it from the Atlanta Porsche Experience Center where I picked it up all the way out to Boise where I live. I drove it down to Rennsport and back. So again, a lot of miles, a lot of road trips, very, very comfortable on the open road. I have a 7-speed manual. I was actually pulled over driving back from Rennsport. I was going 88 in a 65 and did not get a ticket because the trooper
Oh,
was a big fan. He liked the Oslo blue color, and
there you
he's
go.
he said, he goes, I've never seen a 7-speed manual before. Yeah, he gave you a warning and said, I love the car. So
Curiosity killed the cat, or killed the ticket. I don't know.
killed the ticket. So that was fun for me. Um, and otherwise, I find it really good. I find it good in the open. It's what everyone says. It's a really good all arounder. You have back seats, and I've used the back seats for people in a pinch,
Mhm.
and I think that that's something that is a nice plus. Mostly, it's for cargo. Um,
Sure.
I love the engine in the back, um, and to me, it's very unique. I've never had. Obviously, it's the only car you can buy like that.
Mhm.
That's a great thing. So I feel like it's a great all rounder, which is what people say is really good in the open road. The only complaint I have about it is it's just a little bit too big. And starting with the 991 generation, Porsche guys have been saying, this is a little bit too big. 997 seems to be just the perfect, the old G body and the original F body, probably too small. 996, 997, probably just right. And the 991, 992, just a little bit too big. So that's the only thing. I wish it was a little bit smaller,
Mhm.
but I love owning it. I love driving it. And just like you said about the Miata, uh, getting in it, starting the engine and driving, you feel like you want to go after the apexes and really hustle. It's so much fun to drive.
they're both just special cars, and I love seeing your Oslo Blue, and also seeing that, as you said, Oslo Blue is having a moment now with Zuckerman, them getting their Porsche, the Cayman GT4 RS, in Oslo Blue. It's so unique. And I mean, I imagine you have people saying something to you at the gas station, or just around when you're parking it. So
That's the biggest surprise, is how many people, the 911 doesn't really get that many looks. It's pretty ubiquitous, but the color, people talk about the color all the time. I get comments about the color all the time, and people look at the car when I drive by, and I've driven many 911s over the years, mostly silver, and people don't really give much notice. So anyway, it's been a very happy experience for both of us. And before you go to car spotting, we have a very special guest. His name is Jerry, and he is related to you, Jeff.
Yes, this is my dad, who passed the car gene down onto me, who he got from his dad, Grandpa Irv, who had numerous cars during his lifetime, including the '67 Stingray, and in silver, when you were all of 16 years old. Is that right?
Go ahead and tell us what this car is, because you spotted this car, and it's just interesting. It's not a rare. I mean, I'll tell you this. I grew up and I saw this car all the time. It was like everywhere, and I'd always notice it. I thought it was absolutely beautiful.
I take our Macan and our Audi, and used to take my BMW to a local independent shop, and when we were dropping a car off one night, out front was a Series 1 Jaguar E-type in maroon, and it just struck me. I think we were going by, and I saw it just out of the corner of my eye, and said, "Hey, we got to go back and see this." So I turned Natalie and our girls around to go back and see the car. But yeah, it was sitting outside on a cold night with the top down. I don't know if the top worked or not. Maybe that was why it was being taken in. But I don't know. I just the E-type has just always been a stunning car. And I mean, Enzo Ferrari famously called it the most beautiful car in the world, and so for me, whenever I see one, I just my jaw drops.
I found it very interesting. I always wondered why Enzo Ferrari even said that, because he doesn't comment about competitors except in a negative way.
Sure.
My guess is that he just didn't see Jaguar as a real competitor. I just found it interesting because, I mean, can you think of any other positive thing he said about any other car or any other person?
No, he was all about Ferrari and keeping things under their roof. And I showed the car to some of our staff, and the nurse was like, "Oh, that's cute." And I was like, "No, this is the most beautiful car." Or one of the most beautiful cars. And I looked up the designer, his name was Malcolm Sayer, who actually was an aircraft engineer during World War II. And then he actually died in 1970 during really during the E-type's life cycle. I mean, it was Series 1, 2, and 3. And so I guess that would have been, I think, during the Series 2 time frame. But
Adams has talked about this, and I find it interesting. I think it's a very compelling point that Adams makes, and that is that only an aircraft designer could have created an E-type, because there was a certain way of making cars, especially English cars, and this violated all of those rules. He violated the rules of what a British car is supposed to. He violated the rules of what any car is supposed to look like. To me, it looked space age. I thought it looked incredibly beautiful when I was a kid. I always noticed them. Anyway, that's kind of my thought about it. And I want to get Jerry's take, because Jerry, go ahead and say a few words about yourself, and then talk about what you think about the E-type Jaguar.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jerry Bank, and proud of my son Jeffrey. His car knowledge is exceeded mine quite rapidly, so that was pretty cool.
Mine too.
Okay, Jeffrey, I'm not sure you know the story, but my dad took the family to see Disney, or excuse me, go to Disney in California, and we did visit a Jaguar dealer. I'm not sure why, but I do remember an E-type sitting there, and this would have been 1965. And I agree with you; it was an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous car, and today is just as remarkable. The styling, how simple it is, but so elegant and exciting.
Gary, people say that when they first saw the E-type, it was so space age and futuristic and different that it completely changed how they thought of automobiles. Is that your sense?
Oh, absolutely. It was just so exciting, and it was just so smooth. I've never seen anything like it before. Um, it was wonderful. Beautiful, beautiful color. It was in the Jaguar showroom that we wandered around, and who knows how we got there and why I remembered it when Jeffrey said he was going to do the little talk on the E-type. I remember this fondly of going to Disney and going to a Jaguar dealer in Los Angeles.
So was Disney better or was the E-type better?
Well, being a car guy, certainly it was the E-type. Good stuff.
I think it's one of those things that, people just kind of agree. There was a automotive journalist survey that I took part in probably 20 years ago. And it said, what is the most important automobile ever made? And somebody said, why are we doing this? Why don't we just all say it's the Model T and move on? And of course, he's right. Isn't it the same for this? It's the most beautiful car. And why do we have to talk about
it? Just remembering the exhaust pipes coming out of the back end, how smooth it was, the taillights that wrapped, and obviously those headlights were just beyond, just beyond that the world could see.
Yeah,
it was cool.
Right, let's talk Corvette. And Jerry, this is really where we want to pick your brain. You're a Corvette enthusiast, and to be fair, we have taken shots at the Corvette here. Both of my co-hosts are
specifically Stephan,
more yes. Ford enthusiasts and Corvette enthusiasts, and he particularly took shots at the new the 8th generation, the C8 Corvette, because of the it has a wide posterior, as they say, because of supposedly this mythical, I don't know if it's apocryphal or not, the idea that you have to fit a set of golf clubs, or 2 sets of golf clubs in the back. So talk about your history with Corvettes and how you got into Corvettes, and go ahead and wave the flag for Corvette.
Okay. As a young child, I remember my mom and dad getting Life magazine or Look magazine and cutting pictures out of the advertisements, and that was my interest in cars. And certainly when my dad bought a 1968 Corvette convertible, silver with black interior, in January of 1968, it was a 427 with 390 horse. And wow. as Jeffrey said, I was 16 years old. And my dad had a philosophy, and I think I passed it on to Jeffrey and David, that I taught you how to drive, you know the rules, respect speed, respect the people around you. So my dad let me drive the Corvette when I was 16, never had an accident, never had a speeding ticket. And I got to say the same for Jeffrey when he was driving, that the 68 Corvette was just phenomenal, so beautiful, put the top down. Unfortunately, we had many, many problems with the 68 Corvette. I think we kept it about 7 months, got us through part of the summer, and Dad sold it. For the Corvette, I just find it to be a fabulous automobile. It is, I like the styling, certainly the V8. Mine is a manual transmission, convertible, 2016, shark gray with red interior. I love the exhaust. It has 4 settings: quiet, tour, sport, and then track. And with track, obviously the bellows are open, and my wife refers to it as juvenile. because it makes so much noise.
So this would be the
So-
seventh generation, the Stingray,
Yeah.
and again, emphasize what you just said: manual transmission.
It's for a Corvette, it's got to be a manual transmission. It's got to be a true convertible. And that's one of the reasons I just can't go to a C8. My best friend has a 2020 C8, beautiful blue. Gone countless trips with him riding. It's just a fantastic automobile, a C8, in terms of the transmission, the dual clutch. It sounds wonderful, and it's like being in a parade when you're in the C8 because people stop and look and gawk at you. But it's not for me.
I know your son has lots of questions, but I want to ask this question.
What, Steve?
That is, do you think, and I will say, I think that the Corvette has always been, the 911, which we talked about earlier, has always been rear engine, rear drive. The Corvette has always been front engine, rear drive, and they made the new generation mid-engine a big change. I think it's bad. I think not an abomination, but a lot of people say it's sacrilege. What's your sense about that? Is that the problem, or is it just that it doesn't come with a manual?
It's not a Corvette for me. I think they should have named it something different. The Corvette enthusiasts, I mean, certainly you can't talk about C8 production and say it certainly has been a success. I think this year they're going to sell 53,000 C8s, which is the highest since 1979.
They will make it. They're only at 26,000 through 9 months, so they're not going to make. We talked about earlier. You missed that. They won't sell 50. They won't make it to 50, but they'll be probably 40.
Okay, and that's very respectable. 2016 was also 40,000. That was the most for the C7 series. I think a Corvette should be rear-wheel drive, front engine, manual transmission. They just look good, and whenever you travel with a group of Corvettes, we have the best time traveling together. 3-4 Corvettes stop traffic, no matter where you're at on the interstate or in town or whatever. It's just a beautiful, exhilarating car that I certainly enjoy driving every day. I've got 65,000 miles on it. I drive about maybe 10 to 13,000 miles a year, and I'm a little concerned about reaching the high mileage, but I think I'll be just fine. One of the guys today that I met just bought a C8, and I showed him pictures of my C7. He says, "You know what? I would keep that until you are ready to be buried and be buried in your C7."
That's fair.
He was that enthusiastic about it.
And I guess I think the C7 styling has really aged well. I mean, obviously time will tell with the C8. I feel like anytime you see a C5, you actually think it's probably even 10 years older than it really is. The C6 is somewhere in between there, but I still see C7s around, and just that. I mean, I know Dad, obviously yours is sharp gray, but I feel like the styling of it is. I mean, when you and I were at the Detroit Auto Show when the C7 was unveiled, the Stingray, I really feel like, I mean, that's the styling has really withstood the test of time.
It certainly is. It's a beautiful car, and fortunately for the C7s. The interior for Corvettes finally improved after all that bad engineering and cheap interiors, the plastics. I also had a C6 that I certainly enjoyed that being the same setup. But the C7 interior is very comfortable. It's nice to touch. Certainly doesn't on the same level as the C8, but for long trips and going to the grocery store or whatever it may be, the car serves very well. Serves its purpose very well.
Yeah, and Dad, I know. I mean, we were just recently texting back and forth about the E-Ray, and now there's some of the new reviews and things. What are your? I know you obviously just said a Corvette should be rear-wheel drive with a true soft top, but tell us what your thoughts are about the E-Ray and the electrification and maybe complication on the Corvette.
Yeah,
on
first
the
tell our listeners what the E-Ray is.
Yeah.
The E-Ray is a C8 with 2 electric motors. it's more of a, it's not an electric car, it's a hybrid and has the two electric motors up front. So now it has four-wheel drive. I was at the Corvette Museum about 3 weeks ago, and they had a few on the lobby floor. You could touch and see them and that sort of thing, and it was wonderful. Certainly, the latest car magazines have shown some E-Ray tests. I think it's be fun to be able to drive your Corvette during winter months with the all-wheel drive. Certainly, we're talking also about having Corvettes as an SUV. That is another story that I think is going to happen, that Corvette will be its own brand. I just think that Corvette is expanding out to so many different avenues. And just as Porsche did, I think it'll be a success.
And
Yeah,
so, I mean, does that mean you're going to get an E-Ray and drive it in the Wyoming winters?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's an avenue that people are excited about.
Sure.
And it's another model that Corvette will have. I think it'll be its own brand in 5 years, maybe 7 years, and the Corvette name will continue. For a car to continue for 7 decades, I guess you'll go back to today's Mustang or your Porsche of having 6 and 7 decades of production, which is exciting. But no, I'm not interested in a C8. I just the inside feels trapped or captured. I don't like the wall between the driver and the passenger. It's just not there yet. I think what they've accomplished production-wise and economy, or for bringing in sales to General Motors, is a win-win. They did it well.
So we're coming up on our time limit, Jerry, but I do want to ask you this question. I know you said you were not interested in becoming a E-Ray Corvette C8 owner. Would you be interested in, let's say there's a Corvette Macan or a Corvette Cayenne, these SUVs? As a Corvette guy for so many years, does that interest you personally? Like, instead of like in the abstract, are you like, no, I would buy a Corvette SUV? What do you think?
No, I wouldn't buy it. It just doesn't appeal to me. I've got to have the Corvette of what we described as a front engine, rear wheel drive, manual transmission, top down, let it rip.
So, there's a lot of people who own a 911 and also own a Cayenne. So they like the idea of so would you be interested in having your C7 and keep that, but also have an SUV that's a Corvette brand?
No, I'm not interested in a SUV or CUV. I enjoy driving my Corvette or four-door sedan. I have an Audi four-door sedan that I find delightful.
And speaking to other Corvette enthusiasts, what's your sense when you talk to your friends? Do they find it exciting? Are they interested?
They are interested. They think that it's the way to go. So many of them, I was at the museum a couple of weeks ago for an event, and they were talking about it. And many people were saying, "I'm looking forward to this." Not for me. So,
all right, Jeff. Any other closing Corvette thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's, admirable how many miles you have on your Corvette. I mean, you've been on, multiple road trips and done multiple things with the Wyoming Corvette Club, and really like on a national level as well. I think that's something that is really unique to the Corvette brand, and just helps it to wave that American flag proudly. This caravan of Corvettes traveling across the country, and into just all the enthusiasm surrounding it, whether it's, hey, I own a C1, C2, or I own the latest C8 Z06, and I'm, roasting the tires around the track. There's something, I really think, something for everybody with a Corvette. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
right.
It's such a long tradition and very respectable.
Well, thank you for joining us, Jerry. I really appreciate your insights. And I will say this personally, I am, I don't know what the word is. Admiration. Your son is a huge car enthusiast, just like you. I have 3 sons, and none of them are. so there you go. Anyway, I'll play the role of Stephan. Like, listen, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and we really appreciate this. Obviously, next week we look forward to having the guys back. But in their absence, Jerry and Jeff Bank, you guys were great. Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
it was fun.
Yeah.
Glad to do it. Bye now.